start, I just want to let you know that this is a really difficult topic for me to talk about. That's why I resisted leading Evensong for so long, because I knew I wanted to talk about my trip to India, but I didn't want it to be token. I really wanted it to be real and authentic, and for a long time I wasn't really sure of the best way to do that, so I didn't. But I think I finally got a pretty good angle figured out to relate my experience to you all, so here we go. You of little faith, why did you doubt? Do not be afraid. This story from the gospel really resonates with me. Peter takes that first step out of the boat onto the water, and despite everything that he thinks he knows might happen, his eyes are focused solely on Jesus, and he walks on water. As soon as he begins to fear, he starts to fall. I think that's something pretty much everyone can relate to. You think you're doing all right, and everything's okay, but then when something happens and you kind of stumble, you doubt. You take your eyes off God's plan for you, and you begin to fall. But I think there's also something to be said for the bravery and trust and faith that Peter has when he takes that first step off the boat and into the water. He disregards everything that he has previously known and puts all trust in Jesus. Hopefully you've experienced one or two of those moments as well. For me, that stepping off of the boat moment came about a year and a half ago when I literally stepped off a plane into Calcutta in India to serve with Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. So before I go any further, I want to show you these. These are called Japamala beads. They're used by Hindus and Buddhists to keep track while they're counting. And what's kind of cool about these is that on every strand there's 108 beads. So you add up 1 plus 0 plus 8, it equals 9, which is a multiple of 3, which, as we know, is a pretty significant number. But what's interesting about the number 3 is that it's not just Christianity or Catholicism. 3 also means supreme balance in Hinduism, and it signifies the Holy Trinity, even with Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So it's kind of cool, and that really provided me a lot of comfort, and I felt connected to these through lots of different religions. They kind of symbolize everything for me. So I've always thought Japamala beads were really cool, and I wanted some. And I had seen them in a bunch of different places in my travels, but nothing ever really kind of struck me or felt right. But it wasn't until we were walking through the streets, and there was this little old man who had a small street vendor, and he was selling these. And I looked, and I was like, yes, those are it. Like, yes. So I got them. I want to pass these around so you can see them. Just, take a look. They're pretty sweet. I'm also like filling with them because I'm nervous. Okay. So I've got these beads, and here I am in Calcutta. And technically I knew I was in Calcutta. The airport sign said Calcutta, but I might as well have been on the moon. It was loud, it was noisy, it was smelly, it was crowded, it was hot. It was unlike anything I've experienced before, and it was hard to imagine I was even on the same planet as Loyola or Baltimore or Trenton, where I'm from. It felt so foreign to me and so frightening. And I remember distinctly being in a cab, driving from the airport to where the tourists stayed, and we had no idea where we were staying. I'm looking at Lauren because Lauren was with me. We didn't have a place to stay. We were just going and hoping to find a place. Once we got there, it was a Saturday night. It was dark and it was late, and we didn't know where we were going. And I just remember being completely and totally overwhelmed and closing my eyes and just thinking to myself, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? How did I get here? What decisions have I made in my life up to this point that I'm here and I don't have a place to stay and I don't know what I'm doing? And I was really scared. And I began to question and doubt God. And I have no problem talking to God directly, and I was like, listen, You said you wanted me here. You told me that you wanted me to come here. And I knew that you wanted me to come here. So why am I feeling this way? This should feel more right. But the one place I was really able to find peace was at the Mother House. And that's where Mother Teresa lived and prayed with her fellow sisters. And every morning we walked to the Mother House from where we were staying at 5 a.m. and we had mass with the other sisters. And they actually had a little statue of Mother Teresa in the back of the room where she always used to sit during mass. It was just like a little figurine of her. And it's weird because when you look out of your peripherals, you wouldn't even know that it's not a statue. It kind of looks like what you'd imagine she would look like there. So we got to see her room. We got to see where she lived for decades, right above a kitchen. It was the hottest room in the entire place, and she never asked for a fan for the heat, not once. But for me, the most beautiful and peaceful and serene place in the Mother House was Mother Teresa's tomb. And it was big and white and marble, and it was just sitting in the room with a few small benches around it where people would sit and pray. Didn't think I was going to cry. So I'll never forget kneeling at the tomb the day before we started service, literally at the side of Mother Teresa herself, talking to her and talking to God and saying, please give me strength. Please give me what I need to get through this because I can't do it by myself. I need you to help me. And I was completely terrified of everything. I was scared of what I would see, of what I would have to do. I was scared of what God was asking of me. And while I was there, knelt down next to the tomb, I had my hand on it, and I asked Mother Teresa to bless my Japamala beads. There's a little cross-pollination with religions there, but I prayed to her and I was like, please give a little bit of whatever you had into these beads because I need them. And I needed just a little bit of that strength to get me through the rest of the week. And it did. It got me through those moments that I thought were going to be unbearable, but actually were joyful. And it was really pretty amazing. So it was in those moments that God called out to me and said, take courage, it is I, be not afraid. He called out to me from across the water, and I took that step out of the boat. Now, I know most of you probably haven't been to Calcutta, but I can pretty much guarantee that every one of you have had at least one of those moments of fear and doubt. When you're afraid and you don't know what to do, and you just look up and you say, help me, I can't do this. But what I would challenge each one of you to do is to respond with a kind of radical trust in God's will. And I know it might be hard, and I know it might be scary, but our faith tells us that God's holding us in the palm of his hand, even or especially when it doesn't feel like it, and we feel like he's kind of forgotten about us. He hasn't. Like Peter, we can lose our footing when we take our eyes off of God. But if you keep your eyes on him and trust in his plan, I promise you, you will be amazed at where he takes you.